Hacksters, we have Brian Willis on the line to talk about frequently asked questions in terms of getting your Azure Sphere kit started up and connected to the Azure system, as well as applying to our contests. So, if you don't mind, Brian, could you give us a quick overview of what the Azure Sphere kit is?
I can. So the AVNet Azure Sphere Starter Kit is a development board with an Azure Sphere MCU and the AVNet Azure Sphere certified module on it that it has expansion slots for click modules and a Grove connector and an OLED and some PMOD and a PMOD connector and things like that. And basically, it's just a really nice kit that's very expandable to help you learn about Azure Sphere and to help you do prototyping and proof of concept projects and things like that using Azure Sphere.
Awesome. And it's very security focused, right?
It is very security focused. So Microsoft has implemented the 7 properties of a highly secure device into the Azure Sphere ecosystem, which consists of the secure MCU, the secure Linux OS, and the Azure Sphere Security Service that all work together.
Cool. I hadn't heard of those 7 aspects of security before. I got to look that up.
Yeah, one of the things that's really cool about Azure Sphere and the security story is that as a developer, you don't even have to think about the security aspects because it's all just taken care of for you. So if you had to implement all these different security pieces, it would be a lot of effort and a lot of expense to stand up infrastructure and stuff for things like over-the-air updates and certificate-based authentication and all those things. And Microsoft has done all that for us, which is really nice.
That's super cool. Everyone, this is what the kit looks like if you're not familiar. And you can still get one of these for free if you live in selected countries that we'll highlight later on. We're running a couple of contests with these, which is partly why we're promoting this. So this webinar in particular is mostly directed to people who already have the hardware and who have been pinging the server for 15 days consecutively because that's a requirement for the contests. However, if you don't yet have the hardware, you can still get it for free. And you can still take advantage of all these documentation resources that we have, including webinars and stuff like Brian mentioned. So there's still plenty of stuff in it for you, and hopefully this will help you get started and move past any roadblocks that you have. Another quick programming note, you should have a chat link in your interface, and we'll be monitoring the chat as well as the Q&A area to see if anyone has live questions that we can answer. And for now, I'll give a quick overview of the contests, and we can go through some of the FAQs that we've seen from the community so far. All right, ready?
Let's go.
Let's go. All right, so we have 2 contests. One of them is through Element14, and that is the Sensing the World contest. And that focuses more on using the sensors in particular. And then we have the Secure Everything with Azure Sphere contest, and that's being run through Hackster. So both of those are available from secureeverything.avnet.com, which is this page that I've been showing you that has all the info on the Azure Sphere. They're right at the top. It's really easy to find. So both of these have a ton of resources linked. They both have the same timeline and some of the same requirements. So both of them, one of the requirements to participate is that you must ping the server, the Azure Sphere server, once per day for 15 days. That's based on a UTC time zone. So some people have found that pinging it multiple times per day is a good idea. And we actually show where everyone is on this amazing heat map. Brian, do you have any info about this heat map? It's so cool.
I don't have any specific details, but it was really cool when the contest first started to kind of see how it all grew across the entire globe, you know, and all the people that were connecting up. So it's very cool.
That's really nice. Yeah. So both of the contests, to qualify for them, you have to do that. And so that's why we say that this is mainly if you already have the hardware, because it's November 21st and that phase ends on November 30th, meaning that you would have to have at least 6 days already, I think. But you can still get the free hardware. So yeah, for the Element14 contest, at least November 30th is the end of phase 1. phase 2, and then I think that's also when the submissions for projects close, and the winners are announced on December 16th. So for each of these, you'll want to submit for Element14 a blog post detailing your project, and on Hackster, a regular Hackster project, which includes a write-up and code and schematics and bills of materials and everything. It's really simple. There's little boxes for everything so that you know you don't miss anything. And over here on the right side is where the requirements are on the Hackster page. So yeah, there's a lot of resources available showing you how to pin the server. First up, you can do it manually every day if you follow the directions in the 4 easy steps to ping the server. However, also, Monica Houston from the Hackster team has written up the Lazy Person's Guide to Azure Sphere, which, if you're having trouble remembering to ping the server every day, you can write a script on your Windows machine in order to connect to the server every day, and then you don't have to do it manually. Make the robots work for you. It's the best way, always. Yeah. Speaking of which, it is required, unfortunately, for the software, you do have to have a Windows machine. So there's some more in-depth information on that. Let me check on that. It is supported by PCs running Windows 10 Anniversary Update or later. So that's what you need in order to run the software to connect your Azure Sphere to the internet.
Yeah, Alex, one of the features that Microsoft is working on releasing for the Azure Sphere ecosystem is support to do development on the Linux box.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so they haven't released that yet. They've been making progress towards that. So with the recent, I think it was the 1909 release, they introduced CMake into all their projects. So that was the first step in making sure that everything, all their example applications would build in Linux as well as in the Visual Studio tool.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, so I guess Linux support is upcoming as well. So you might as well apply, even if you have a Linux box and nothing Windows. So yeah, for Element14, they're talking about building things for sensing the world. And this kit has a ton of sensors built in from right off the bat. So it's the Azure Sphere module, as well as a breakout board that has a ton of features on it. So like Brian mentioned, there's the microelectronica clickboard sockets, there's the Grove connector, there's also a ton of built-in sensors, including a 3-axis accelerometer, 3-axis gyro, temperature sensor, pressure and barometric sensors, ambient light sensor, an interface for an OLED, a USB interface, and all kinds of other stuff, and built-in switches and LEDs and things like that. There is also an article on how to get the maximum out of your starter kit hardware. And that's an article on Element14 by Peter Fenn. Check that out. It tells you about some of the things that are broken out but don't have, for example, headers mounted on them that you can take advantage of if you're looking for a way to attach another sensor or something else that you want to work with, or even an actuator. Then you can learn how to connect those based on this article. Super helpful information here.
Yeah, Peter's done a really good job of adding a lot of content around the kit and helping people understand what the changes in the recent OS updates were and things like that. So Peter's done a good job of documenting all that, and that's all available on Element14 for people to read and learn about.
Awesome. Now, some people had questions about getting connected to Azure Sphere using a credit card to set up their Azure account. And from all the information that I've seen, this is not actually going to charge you. You can set a hard account limit so that it doesn't charge you at all, in fact. And this is mainly for verification purposes. We have some more info from Kevin Carrick, who says that there's other ways to go about there's workarounds if connecting a credit card is difficult for you in particular, and I'm about to pull that up for you.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Azure resources that you need for Azure Sphere development, at a minimum, you either need an IoT hub, which there's a free tier. So you can have a free tier that doesn't cost anything at all. And then there's also on the IoT Central side, you can use IoT Central for free as well, as long as you have less than 5 devices. So it's got an IoT hub kind of built into the background of IoT Central, and it provides rich graphical interfaces for displaying your telemetry data and controlling things on your devices and things like that. So so you still need an Azure account to utilize those things. With IoT Central, you can set up a free IoT Central app that's good for 7 days, but after 7 days, it's going to force you to either delete that application or convert it to a pay-as-you-go account.
Aha, I see. And there's more information about that. I'll put this this post in the chat here. Again, if you're joining us remotely, you can click on the chat icon and you'll be able to see this link that I've just posted. I'll also put it, we're going to put up a recording to this webinar, and we'll have all these links in the description to the video, including Secure Everything, the main page, secureeverything.avnet.com, and this information about working with credit cards. And again, from that page, you can easily access both of these contests. One last note about the contests. So you have some pretty awesome prizes available. We love to promote the prizes because we love giving away free stuff. So the phase 1 prizes for people who have completed the part where you connect your Azure Sphere to the server for 15 consecutive days. They are giving out 50 $200 gift cards, which is pretty exciting. And that ends again on November 30th. And then there's all kinds of different prizes available for different projects that you build using the Azure Sphere Kit, including Xbox One controllers and an Xbox, a Surface keyboard, a Surface laptop, a HoloLens kit. There's actually 3 of those. Oh, I could be lying. There may be one of those, and then also a Surface Book 2 and a Surface Studio. And then for the Hackster side of this, there are 3 winners who will get a HoloLens kit, and 7 winners of a Surface Laptop 2, 500 winners of a Raspberry Pi 4, which I love. I think that these little guys are so magical. And we have a bunch of info on that, the Pi 4 module, if you haven't checked that out before. It's pretty sweet. It runs on USB-C. It can do artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's so cool. And then also we have a Hackster Impact Prize. But I think that while prizes are exciting, we should get back to how you obtain them. And that gets back to our FAQs. So we've also heard people say that they didn't see their pings go up on the heat map. And there's a couple of aspects there. We mentioned that first up, it's based on UTC, and you might want to ping multiple times in a day if you're going at irregular times, just to make sure that all your consecutive days are counted. Each time the server is pinged, you should get a confirmation email. And for me, those emails were titled Confirmation of Azure or of Avnet Azure Sphere Device Registration. I'll put that in the chat so that you can search your emails in case you're afraid that you're not getting it or it's going to spam or something like that. Besides that, the heat map does not update as quickly. So the map, according to my most recent information, is updated about 4 times per day. So roughly every 6 hours. So don't worry if it doesn't show up immediately. You may still be counted, but it never hurts to ping it again just in case. Brian, what kind of questions have you seen or run into yourself about working with the hardware itself?
So I know there's been a couple of issues that have cropped up with the starter kit. So one issue is reading the I2C sensor. So there's an example application that we have out there that we use for not only the Hackster technical training course, but also for a couple of blogs that are on Element14. Every once in a while, the I2C bus gets into a weird state, and what will happen is when the device starts up, you'll see a message in the console that says could not find the LPS22HH or something to that effect. it's not a, I mean, it's not a fatal error in the application. It will continue running and just not sense that, not read that sensor since it can't see it. But if you usually, actually every single time I've heard of that problem, a power cycle will resolve that. So if you run into that problem, just power cycle your dev kit and that should take care of it.
Ah, good to know.
Other issues that we've seen. I know there have been some issues with people having problems with power on their board. So I think there's been some damaged components.
Oh.
Yeah, we're still doing some in-depth analysis on what actually is causing that. But the recommendation we make is to make sure that you use the USB cable that came with the kit, and make sure you're plugging into a good solid USB source so that it has good clean power.
That's a great point. I've definitely seen that with Raspberry Pis and stuff a lot before as well. Always a concern. You mentioned the Azure Sphere Technical Training course, which we have up here. If you go to hackster.io/workshops/Azure-Sphere, and I'm putting this in the chat as well, you'll be able to sign up for the Azure Sphere Technical Training course, which is free. It's typically offered for $10, and for now you can use this code to access it for free. Complete end-to-end IoT security tutorial. Super cool.
It's a really great lesson plan. So I've created this content, and in lesson 1, as you show in there, we talk all about Azure Sphere, the solution, and all the security aspects of it, and why it's important. Why security is important in your IoT project and things like that. And then the follow-on lessons walk through setting your device up and getting everything going, pulling down an example application, connecting that application to Azure. Not only to an IoT hub and using time series insights to visualize your data, but also to an IoT Central application. There's a lesson that talks about all the different IoT aspects of the implementation. Specifically, I go into detail about how to send telemetry to Azure, how to create and send telemetry, how to operate with device twins so that you can control your device from the cloud, and how to look at hardware implementations with example projects to kind of see how you can take somebody else's project and leverage work that they've done to bring some of that implementation into your project.
Oh, that's great. And I think that's the way that a lot of us learn anyway is,
yeah.
And
there's tons of great resources out there. So not only the content that we've created at AvNet, but every time Microsoft releases a new feature for Azure Sphere, they also create an example application up on their GitHub.
Oh, great.
So there's, I mean, there's probably 15 or 20 different applications up there right now that show you everything from sending, doing a curl call to pull a web page down, to I2C, to Ethernet, and GPIO, and on and on and on. Pretty much any feature that the kit supports, there's an example that shows you how to use it.
Fantastic. And at the bottom of the Hackster contest page, there's always a resources section where you can find a lot of those things that you're talking about. The Microsoft GitHub repo sounds really useful. If you wouldn't mind throwing a link to that in the chat,
Sure,
I would
I can do that
as well. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a really great resource.
Love it.
Yeah.
So a couple more questions while we find that. You can join both the Hackster and Element14 challenges. The request is that you make a separate project for each one. So Element14 has an overall requirement that your submission to each contest must be unique. And between the two platforms, that's the same. So if you want to submit to both contests, then just make 2 separate projects. And if you've already completed the server ping, I think that also has to be done for each one because that's tracked by each device's unique ID. And that's one of the security features actually, is that there's a lot of, each device is registered completely uniquely using a hardware-based identifier. We have some of these kits still available. So right now there are 1,000 kits still available in the United States, 1,000 kits also still available in parts of Europe. specifically in 5 countries: the UK, Ireland, France, Italy, and Spain. These people, if you haven't already received this hardware, you're not eligible for the contest because you can't do that 15-day consecutive ping. But if you do have, if you have been pinging the server again, you can complete that by the 30th, and you can still get hardware even if you don't have a chance to register for the other prizes. There's still something in it for you. Let's see. So we also have a question about whether the Azure Sphere supports other cloud services such as AWS. And the answer is yes, the Azure Sphere will work with other cloud services. For the purposes of these contests, we're using the Microsoft Azure Cloud, but the hardware kit is compatible with other types of cloud services. So
For sure.
let's see. I think we've covered most of these. Brian, you've been really helpful already in the discussions and by posting things on Element14 about how to get started. There's also a road test on Element14. It's under Element14 road tests and reviews, road tests, and I will put it in the chat here. Oh, thanks for posting the Microsoft GitHub link there.
Certainly.
And this is a sort of, there are a number of different guides for getting started, and this one kind of gives you a few more technical details. So lots of insights here. It's so small. Like the module itself, I'm always surprised by how small it is. So you can, obviously the point of a dev kit is that you sort of, you know, check out how it works and test out different applications using this thing. And it's built in buttons and LEDs and everything. But the module itself is only about yay big. So you can picture all kinds of different applications if you decided to scale from your actual project for one of the contests all the way up to something that would be manufacturable. Yeah, it's really small. It's about, you can see this comparison of it with a quarter here.
And that's certainly one of the benefits of using the Avnet Starter Kit is that if you do all your development, your prototyping on the Starter Kit, and you use the module in your final design, you know, all your code will just go over without any changes at all, really. So it's a nice way to work on your product.
So good. And I want to show really quick, let's find oh, it was already coming up. Here we go. They have, I think, over 300 different modules. No, over 700 modules.
It's crazy. These guys crank out multiple modules a week.
It's incredible.
They really are something. Yeah.
And you've got 2 slots for these.
Yeah. When I first started looking at these, I think there was like 600 clipboards, and then now there's over 750. Like less than a year later. It's amazing.
Peltier engine one. That's ridiculous. So for heating and cooling. Let's take a look. We've got e-paper. You could do all kinds of different displays showing what's going on with your Azure Sphere. Oh, I love this. An H-bridge for motor control. You've got capacitive touch clicks. You've got a radio click. There's all kinds of displays as well. So if you want to build an integrated product that's going to appeal to people both on the ground as well as transmitting information, those e-paper screens are going to be super low power. You've got all kinds of motion sensing. There's even one, I think there might be some for crypto as well. I could be wrong there. Power and reset click. And some of these also have really cute little designs, but that's probably less exciting to our demographic. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about it, you know, if you're creating an IoT project, which is what this device is really targeted for, secure IoT, you know, you're going to have sensors, you're going to have some inputs and things like that, and pretty much you're going to be able to find a clipboard that's going to, if it's not the exact hardware device that you want, it's going to be something that does the same thing. So very easy to just plug it into the clip socket and write your code and you know, read the sensor and do what you kind of need to do. So it's very nice.
Awesome. Now, everyone, we do have a Q&A available. Feel free to post your questions there. We have one question from Vinod Kumar I am not sure about this one. They say, why did the power IC fail in most of the kits? I have not actually seen a lot of these comments, but do you know why they might have failed in some of the kits?
You know what? We're actually doing analysis on it, and we don't have a root cause yet. So we're still looking at that. Yeah, we apologize, for people who had those problems. And I think I responded pretty quickly to most of those posts that we saw, and recommended that you just, get a RMA for your board. So there we had some very bright community members that actually did some hardware troubleshooting and determined how to fix it themselves. And somebody even posted a post on how to fix it, which we know that's not a great solution, but for some of these guys, they really had fun doing that, and they documented how you could do it as well. So if you have that problem with your kit, please submit an RMA, and let's get that kit replaced as quickly as possible.
Oh, I love how the community jumps in to fix the
It
problem.
was pretty awesome. Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
That's so cool. We also have a couple of articles linked by Kevin about how to make sure that your card will work for the Azure signup. And those again are in this post that I linked in the chat. And then also there was a question about Wi-Fi not being configured. The answer that I have for that is the Wi-Fi not configured incorrect reporting is a known issue that many users have worked around. The fix is to add a short pause or timeout in the script that reads back the device info. And I can put this in the chat as well.
Yeah, let me just say one thing about the Wi-Fi, and so before the 1909 release, there was I'll just call it a shortcoming in the product, where if you tried to connect to a Wi-Fi network and you were in an environment where there were many Wi-Fi networks. So we have a facility in Chandler, Arizona, where we had a really hard time getting an Azure Sphere device to connect to the network because there were 160 networks in the air, and
Wow.
the way that it was implemented could have been better. And so we worked with Microsoft on this problem for a while. And in 1909, they actually released a preview feature they call the targeted scan. And so whenever you do the Azure Sphere device Wi-Fi add command, if you give it the -T or -- targeted -scan, it will enable this feature. And even in those environments, it will connect to the Wi-Fi right away. So if you're having problems connecting to the Wi-Fi and you're at like in a work environment with a building where there might be a lot of these Wi-Fi signals in the air, or if you're someplace like at CES, which we've had this problem at CES last year, this targeted scan option is going to help you get past that roadblock.
Awesome. I'll put this in the chat. If there are many networks in the area, I'm gonna paste this in. Vasily says, I think the DNS problem is important to solve. I had to install a DNS changer app because the board did not connect to both via ADSL, neither mobile 4G. I'm not aware of the DNS problem.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that problem either. I have seen problems on specific networks. Like I was in a university environment teaching a class on Azure Sphere one time, and people could not connect up to the device provisioning service. It would just keep trying and trying and trying. And we finally figured out that there was a port that was being blocked on the network. And so as soon as people started using their mobile phones, their hotspots on their mobile phones, everything worked fine. So,
interesting.
So one of the things I documented was we had people that were using the example application that couldn't connect to an IoT Hub. So I actually created a blog that has, I think there's 4 different specific things that need to be correct in that application to connect to IoT Hub. One of them is all those ports need to be open. And I documented what those ports were, and I documented a way to test from your network anyway, not necessarily from the Azure Sphere device, how to check to see if those network ports were open or not. So if you're having problems like that, there's some documentation that can help you kind of pinpoint what the problem might be. But certainly, trying a different network is an option to try.
Cool. I will make a note for us to put that blog link in the video description. The 4 aspects you should check if you're having network connectivity issues.
Yeah, I can post the I could post the link to that real quick.
Awesome. Also up on the screen right now, we have a blog post from Evan Rust about getting started with the Azure Sphere. There's some people who have reported having issues at different stages of the process, and there's a lot of different getting started tutorials at this point. So you should hopefully be able to find one that suits your style, and we'll answer all of your questions. This is one of them. I'll post that in the chat as well. And for the new people who are joining us, I've seen a couple of new people in the last few minutes. Remember that you have a chat option as well as a Q&A. Both of those are options in your Zoom interface, and we're answering questions and posting links in the chat right now. And I think that's about all of the questions that I had for questions that we had from the community already, and FAQs.
Alex, thank you guys for setting this up, and thank you for reviewing all the information about the contest and everything. We've had a lot of activity on the contest, and we're really excited to see all the different projects that people have come up with.
Yeah,
the community is so clever and so smart, and they have some great ideas. And it's really awesome that these ideas are going to be out there in the public domain for people to learn from and to people to use as examples and things like that, and just building the knowledge in the community, right? It's really awesome.
It's so cool. Thank you so much for joining us. And everyone, remember that this is going to be available as a recording on Hackster's YouTube and Facebook and main page as well. Remember that you can join both of our contests. This page is secureeverything.avnet.com, which has most of the links for joining the contest, as well as all these awesome resources that we highlighted in this webinar. One last Q&A. Phil asks, are there drivers for all the clipboards?
So they're definitely not drivers for all the clipboards because there's 750 of them.
And they're adding new ones every day.
So no, that's not something we have the manpower to do. So there is a blog. One of my colleagues, Jim Flynn, I think his tag is B-Man or something like that. He's posted a blog that has some detail and some GitHub links for I think 5 or 6 clipboards that he implemented on Azure Sphere. But certainly I've seen in the community, I've seen people using clipboards and adding code for them there as well. So we definitely don't have a huge library of support for the clipboards, but I think the community is helping us add more every day.
And you know what? I actually wrote, I am not a software pro, but I myself was able to adapt code that I found on the internet to get a relay click up and running with the Azure Sphere. And I published this as a video. Put it up here. So it's hackster.io/videos/401, putting it in the chat.
The relay clicks are fun. I've played
with them. Yeah. I love them so much. They make such great noises. They're so useful for any kind of hardware hacks. You know, if you want to hack a coffee machine, if you want to hack a lamp or something. But I was able to connect this relay click to my Azure Sphere and get it up and running, despite having severe imposter syndrome with software. And I had to cobble together some things, and I tell you how to do it in this video. So there's also a few links in the description to that video, which will show you how to do the same thing. So I think at that point, that's all our questions. Thank you again, Brian. Have an awesome day, everyone, and good luck. Hack on.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.